Have you ever done something like, let's say, for example, uh, your parents bought a red Toyota Prius, and you never really paid any attention, noticed any red Priuses around, but all of a sudden now you see them everywhere. And this could be anything. Maybe you bought a particular handbag, and now you see that handbag everywhere. This is the way I am about truth. I decided to look for truth, and now I can see it, and I can see the lies. That's what I want to talk to you about, because the point of this particular video is just to contemplate, to think about, to get you to think about. Are you questioning what's you're seeing around you? Or are you just accepting things carte blanche? Are you accepting things because they come from particular people, so it must be true? Whatever it is. Are you looking for the truth? And can you see all the deceit around you? Because it is everywhere. Once you have your eyes open to it. So this is the red Toyota Prius that I see everywhere, metaphorically. So I hope you'll stick with me today as I talk about this. And I'll put on my glasses so I hit the high points instead of ramble too much. So my question for all of us is, why live a lie? Why live a life based on lies? I mean, I want to live a life that's based on reality. Reality is true. Everything else is some level of deceit or confusion, etc. Delusion, right? It's not truth. Excuse me, I'm trying to get this sort of laid out. So if you've looked at other videos or posts of mine, you'll see that this is what I'm doing. I like to share some humor sometimes, but largely, if they're serious posts, they're about what is true. Now, it might be about a whole variety of different, it could be medical questions, it could be faith questions, it can be political questions. And my issue is not whether you believe in one political idea or another political idea, in a particular faith or another faith necessarily. But are you looking at whether it's true or not? I was asked one time, my brother asked me in a conversation as I was sharing information with him, he said, well, who are your influencers? And I said, I don't have any influencers. Okay? I don't have influencers. I look at a whole variety of information, all kind of people, and yes, I'll find some people who tend to, well, first of all, I have my own views, right? So I'm going to, just like everyone, I'm going to probably be more likely to expose myself to people to have a view that's acceptable to me, okay? So if you're into, if you like soccer instead of football, well, I'll listen to you talk some about soccer, but I'm really going to be more interested in listening to the guy who's talking about football, right? He's going to talk about information that makes sense to me and that I care about, okay? So likewise with, who is my influencers? Well, I have watched a whole variety of people over time. Some, and at different times, some people I'll watch for a while, and after a while, it's just the same thing over and over and over again. I know what they think. And so I'll cut back on how much I watch them because I got their view. I understand where they're coming from. And there's a lot of topics that if the video or whatnot has a particular topic on it, I know where they're going to be on it because I've watched them so many times. So I don't need to watch them again. So I'll watch somebody else who I've never heard from before. And maybe they'll say something in that particular video that's interesting, and I'll share it with you. Just to be thought-provoking. And unfortunately, I run into a lot of people who they don't want to have things shared with them because they don't like what the people are saying. Well, I appreciate that. My point is not to try to indoctrinate anyone on a particular political view, but somewhere in that video, there's a topic that they talk about and they bring up facts, and I think it's good for us to hear the facts. That's normally what I'm doing. Anyway, I don't have influencers, so I choose to watch a variety of things. I'm interested in a variety of topics, and not all of us are. My wife is not interested in most of these topics, okay? She willingly listens to me talk about things, but she's not delving into them. She's happy just to go along doing what she does, okay? You may be just like that. Now, the problem with that, the benefit that my wife has, is that she has me to sort of go through the weeds. And I go through all the weeds, and then I come to her and I say, honey, here's some facts you need to think about. And so she has the benefits of having it, narrowed down to the bone, the real important issues, that the clear facts, instead of, because you do get so much opinion in everything and so many things. But I like geology. That's interesting. I'm not a geologist. Because of my profession, I've had some training in geological kind of stuff. I like archaeology. I'm not an archaeologist, but I'm interested in anthropology. At one time my undergraduate degree was sociology, so I have that kind of liberal arts kind of mindset about a lot of things. Background. I studied those kind of courses. I love history. I'm not a history major because I didn't see where I could make money in it, so I didn't go with history. But that would have been a logical thing for me to go into as far as what my loves were back in the day. I loved landscape architecture. That's what I ended up being. But the thing about history, which if you're not into history, then the benefit to history is that you can get into all kind of information as you're studying. Well, how and why did Hannibal cross the Alps? Was there a technology that he needed to do? Why did he need that technology? Or what about the some of the war engines? Why were they made? How did they cross certain rivers? Blah blah blah. I mean, there's all kind of information you can get into because of the geology of an area on the Earth. So, and of course, you're a kid, you love dinosaurs. I can watch things about dinosaurs and find out about geology too. So, I'm interested in a lot of different things. Let's see. As I stated, I have podcasters who are supportive of my views, but I get irritated by podcasters too, or if it's a writer or whatnot. I'll get irritated wherever anyone says something that is not really factual. People have their opinions, and people will express their opinions sometimes. I'll go, wait a second. If you're pro-Trump, you make a pro-Trump or or say something against anti-Trump people, for example. I'm just using an example. Basic on reality, not your general opinion about things. And that aggravates me because for one thing, there's a lot of times I'd like to share something with you, and guess what? I can't, because the person who's given the information is in the midst of it, is saying all of this personal opinion stuff, and it's their opinion, and they shouldn't be saying it. If in my opinion, they should be giving us the facts. That's what they should give us. Now, this is true to podcasters, and it's certainly true of news people, which I hardly ever, half the time, none of them telling me the truth. So everything's political. So that's very frustrating. All right. So here's an example of things that I'm interested in, a variety of things. In recent years, I've got interested in the whole idea of flat Earth. And I listened to some people talking about flat Earth stuff. And they made very good arguments. They pointed out things that people had assumed were true, how they weren't true at all, assumptions that could not be proven, etc. And so I really I listened to a whole variety of people talking about flat Earth. The thing that aggravated me, first of all, most about the flat Earth argument, and this video isn't about flat Earth, I'm just using the example. The thing that frustrated me the most was that the people who were round Earth folks, global folk, globe people, they regurgitated nothing. They regurgitated stuff that when I say nothing, they weren't giving me any real meat. They would just, it was like headline kind of talking, and they were always condescending. And they didn't give me any, where's your real science? So then somebody would throw out, well, so and so, Sir Walter Blumhead came up with a formula for XYZ. Well, I don't know what that formula really means, and I don't. Let me see where they've done a lot of research on how that formula works. Right? You don't get that. You just get these pieces of fact that have no. Certainly, Sir Walter Plumbum, whatever he is, did come up with that formula. I don't know whether it works or not. Okay, now. I'll tell you for myself, just to let you know, I'm not advocating flat Earth. And the best thing that I've ever seen anybody do on the flat Earth issue is some guys went to the South Pole, to Antarctica. I believe they went there. They gave a lot of good information while they were doing their video that they actually were there, and they went there in the middle on the longest day of the year. Is that right? Anyway, they went there on the day of the year that at the South Pole it's daylight all day long. Well, you can't, if you're going with the flat Earth idea, that can't happen. You can't have it all day long at what would be the South Pole, what we know as the South Pole. So, if you're a flat earther and you can give me some other information to prove that they weren't there or couldn't have done that, or etc., that's, go for it. But I doubt you are. There's not many of them. Anyway, now, last night I was watching a video. It was about facts about Tennessee, and it was interesting. Probably half the facts, there's like 25 facts about Tennessee. About half of them was about Tennessee geology, how the valleys were formed and things like that. And a big aspect of that is that much of Tennessee, in the mountain areas, etc., sits on top of limestone, a large limestone base, and this limestone has dissolved. Well, guess what? That's not new. Here in Florida, limestone's dissolving all the time, and we're seeing houses go into holes all the time, right? Sinkholes. So that's a big aspect of the geological history of Tennessee. Now, the thing that I kept hearing over and over again is how this over millions of years. It's always millions of years. There's no proof of that I know of. No hard proof. There's certainly theory. But my issue with that is that there's so many things that we assume because we were taught by our teachers. And somebody was talking the other day, and they were referring to a survey or something, and that indicated that 99% of our educators, our college educators, had not been educated in anything at this point except for the evolutionary theory. And of course, they don't believe it's theory anymore. They think it's a fact, although technically, when they talk about it correctly, they have to talk about evolutionary theory because there's no facts of it, no proof of it. Now, I'm not saying that there's nothing that evolves in some way. That's not what I'm saying. We know that you can. I don't have any doubt personally that our modern dogs, most of them, come from wolves. Okay, but so there was an evolving of that creature in that species. But as far as this idea of coming from some amoeba to humanity, that's just this theory. And if you look into it deep enough, for one thing, you see that Darwin even poo-pooed it. I mean, he held it, but he admitted that it was full of holes. His theory was full of holes, in his own opinion. Now, you can look it up for yourself. Then we have repeated. There's so many scientists. Although yes, the official institutional idea about evolution is that it's real, but there are hundreds of thousands of scientists who think for themselves and just look at the world and see reality. And so you see people who I've seen a couple of listened to a couple of different scientists talk about how a worldwide flood is very likely. If you look around the world, you have the same strata doing the same thing all over the world. Okay, there's scientists that talk about the formation of things like the Grand Canyon or things like that, and whether it was that might not have been the same flood, but there were they talk about a huge flood event of a glacial lake breaking and pouring down through the middle of what is now the United States. There's all this information that's out there that is so logical. It's absolutely logical. It's not theoretical. Maybe it's like, look, there's a boulder that is made of the same rock as the rocks of the Rocky Mountains, and it's laying in the middle of Oklahoma. And there's no other boulders like it. How did it get here? Anyway, but you see, you have to be like me. You have to go, wait a second. I thought I was seeing red Toyota, and here's another red Toyota, or this isn't the red Toyota I thought it was. Maybe that's the way it is with those kind of things. Let's see. Oh, and then I'm constantly, because I'll get alerts on Facebook or whatnot from like creation.org or whatever. These guys, these scientists, they're showing up, showing you stuff constantly about things that everybody assumed. Fossils takes hundreds of thousands of years. What do you call the things? Petrification takes a long time, etc. And what you find is, hey, here's a cup. Let's see, this cup is 25 years old, and it's in the middle of coal, or it's in the middle of, or it's been fossilized in some way. It's only 25 years old, or maybe it's 100 years old. Maybe it's 200 years old, but the point is, it's not 2,000 years old. It's not 200,000 years old. And yet, when you hear people talk, they talk like that's just what it is. Everybody knows this. So let's see. And then there's a great example of science that we assume is true, but it's really not real. That is, you can't count on radioactive carbon dating. So Mount St. Helens, 10 years after Mount St. Helens, they went and tested rocks, picked up a rock. The rock said that according to the radioactive testing, the rock was 2 million years old, wasn't it right? Yeah, 2 million years. Well, we know we were here. Mount St. Helens, that particular stuff on top of the ground is not 2 million years old, right? They were picking up the lava. Now, what does that mean? Does it mean that that rock was at some point that the Earth is still 2 million years old because that rock was in the middle of the Earth 2 million years ago? I don't know. I don't know science to the depth of that, right? Or is it just that the dating is wrong? You hear people like, for example, the Shroud of Turin, talking about the dating of the Shroud of Turin. Well, one person says it's this age, one person says it's another age. It's not really reliable. That's the point. And what people do is they find something, it works for them. Look about what about Lucy, the African humanoid, whose bones were found, Lord, they weren't found in one grave. You hardly ever hear that. They were found spread. They found pieces of bone spread for, I think it might have even been miles. It was for sure hundreds and hundreds of yards. It was not, hey, here's a skeleton right here. And yet we talk about that as, here's a person they found, or a humanoid they found. It could have been for 50 different doggone animals. And yet, that's the way it fits their narrative. This is the problem. There's always a narrative. And what you're buying is the narrative, and you don't even know it because you think you're accepting facts. Okay? All right, then we got, what about this? So, geological changes can happen in hours, sometimes weeks, some days. Maybe it takes a month or two, maybe a few years. But it can happen in moments. As I mentioned, for example, the flood that is thought to come through the middle of the United States based on a glacial lake, the glacial dam breaking, and all of a sudden all these zillion gallons of water came flooding down the continent. But and a good example of that is if you can go out, let's say you've got a new house and you don't have any grass put down yet, or maybe you've worked in your yard and there's no grass there, and so you've graded out the soil. It's just plain soil, and all of a sudden along comes a major storm and a good heavy rainstorm. And so you got areas where little by little the soil gets saturated, and so the water starts to puddle, right? And after a while, that puddle gets so high that it breaks. It either comes over the berm, the little bitty, teeny, teeny berm, goes over the berm, or maybe it just wears through the berm, and the water is released from that puddle on down the lawn. And then you get reels, which are very thin, or you have maybe some major channels that are just carved out. And so what you have there, well, there are some flat areas up here, and then you have canyons. If you look, that's just about the same as looking at the Grand Canyon from way up high. It's not much difference. This is true around the world. There's similar kind of things like that all over the world. And it couldn't, this kind of thing couldn't have happened just in a particular locale. It had to have enough water everywhere, within hundreds of thousands of miles up to a particular point in order to have carved through what happened. So anyway, I'm not the scientist, but it's certainly so the scientists who talk about that say this looks like a global flood. You'd have to do more research. I'd have to do more research, but it's an argument for that for sure. Then we have the Galapagos finches. Well, Darwin said, hey, this is an example of how evolution works. And then a few years ago, as I understand it, they found that there was a whole new variety of finches. So obviously there's some finch from somewhere else, some Mr. Finch, Mr. Super Finch, came flying through, somehow got there. Maybe it was due to a storm that happened and he got blown off his direction that he was going, off his trail. And he ends up on Galapagos, and then he meets some Galapagos finch ladies, and all of a sudden they've got a whole new variety of finches that have, as they look at, well, how do we evaluate a new species? So whatever they are, 3 or 4 or 5 things that they look at, and they decided, well, we got a new variety of finch. So this shows you that evolution works. Well, guess Mendelssohn, was it Mendelssohn? Anyway, all of the European dog breeders and horse breeders, etc., could have told you this, right? They were doing the breeding themselves, right? This is just, yes, this is a natural thing that happens, just like wolves turning into dogs or whatnot. But the point is, evolution is supposed to take thousands, if not millions of years. So how could this have happened? This actually blows their theory, although the evolutionists celebrated it as, oh, look, see, evolution is true. They see everything through their own little rose-colored glasses. Okay, they have evolution glasses. They see everything through as evolution. And it's not evolution. Anyway, So, um, those are scientific issues. Then you have historical issues. You know, when I was young, people would claim, well, Jesus didn't exist, and the whole Old Testament is nothing but a myth, etc., etc. But today, there's been so much archaeological work done in Israel and in the Middle East that it's just it's pervasive. There's things all over the Middle East that prove the biblical record. So people, you can say that you don't believe it because you've not been exposed to it. But if you go looking for it, it's really easy to find all this archaeological stuff. Uh, Pontius Pilate, did he exist? Yes, he did exist. Did King David exist? Did Solomon exist? These things, hey, here's the stable of Solomon. There's just many things that are not debated anymore. They're not debated, but guess what? They're also not promoted. Because why? Because people in your educational system don't want to tell you about it. That's not important for their narrative, see? Okay, here's another one. Flu shots. Now, I've spoken about this probably in previous videos, but I'm getting old, so my doctors a few years ago told me, you really need to be, you're getting old, you need to get your flu shots. I hear that for a few years, and I finally said, you're right, I probably should do that. And I planned on doing it, but it wasn't a good day for the nurse to be, I couldn't work it out with the nurse at the CVS, and I had something else to do, didn't want to wait around. So anyway, I kept missing getting the flu shot. And so that season went. And then the next season came, and I thought, I've missed it last season. I need to really get it this season. I need to do this. So I went in and I talked to the nurse. So I'm thinking about getting my flu shot. And the nurse's response to me was, oh, good. Because, last year's flu shot wasn't all that good. This is a good one. I thought, well, that's good. And then I thought about it. This is what we all need to do. Think about it. I thought about it. And guess what? A flu shot is based on last year's flu. So why is everybody so confident it's going to work on this year's flu? Maybe it will, maybe it won't. We don't know what this year's flu is going to be like. We don't know. Maybe I had a form of the flu because I lived in California that didn't quite get to New York. And so therefore, I'm somewhat immune to the flu that you're getting hit with in New York, right? But nonetheless, why? And then the other issue was, wait a second. I thought to myself, why is it, if the flu shot last year was no good, why do we assume the flu shot this year is going to be good? I mean, that's just asinine to me. Well, and so I came to the conclusion, look here, I'm going to get the flu probably. When I get the flu, I'm going to have antibodies. They are my vaccination. The last flu I got was my last vaccination when I actually had the flu. And after 5-10 years, there's going to come along another strain of flu that whatever's in my body that's been fighting the flu the last 5 or 10 years is not going to be quite appropriate to fight the new flu. Just like that flu shot is not going to be appropriate to fight the new flu, right? So I'm just going to wait for the next flu. And yes, it might not be fun. It might be, I might be down for a few days. But might feel like crap for a few days. But I really prefer not to every year inject myself with all kind of crap that's in those shots, which frankly is not simply the flu. There's all kind of stuff in these shots. All kind. I won't get into that topic. But even if they're supposed to be inert things, there's crap in these vaccines. There's remains of babies. There's all kind of stuff. So I decided I'm not getting a flu shot. I'm not getting the doggone, what's the other, shingle shot? Forget it. Yeah, my father had shingles when he was in his 80s, late 80s, and it was bad. It was bad. But he was falling apart. He was an old man, had multiple heart attacks. So, his body was not fighting things off the way that a stronger person would, okay? So, it's a crapshoot. This is all a crapshoot. Taking their medication is a crapshoot. Not taking it is a crapshoot. Trust in God. That's what I say. Okay. So, then we come to the more recent thing that is the pandemic. And, of course, I didn't take that either. Why? Why? I'm supposed to take something that nobody knew about that. Now, at least the flu shot, they knew about the flu shot. They knew about the flu last year. People had flus for the last thousands and thousands of years. But this new thing, hey, it's a brand new thing. And they're going to give me a shot to keep it from affecting me? That's BS. So I didn't bother with that. And I was supposedly got COVID. I got what I believe is the flu. And why do I think it was the flu? It wasn't very bad at all. Just a very light case. And why do I believe it was the flu? Because guess what? Do you know this? If you don't know this, guess what? Nobody had the flu that season. Everybody had COVID. Nobody had the flu. Nobody's dying of the flu. Nobody has any problem with the flu. There was no flu. Is that not curious? So I'm pretty confident what we called COVID, IBD, was the flu. Some form of the flu. Whether it was man-made or not, I don't know. That's another issue that you can watch other videos about. And then, of course, there's just... I started this back probably in the 80s. It started irritating me in the 80s that a couple of different things. When I was a kid, dinosaurs were lizards. Then I got to be, high school or college, and dinosaurs were birds. And then about another 10 or 15 years later, dinosaurs were lizards again. And I'm going, why can't they figure this out? They were so certain it was one thing, and then it's another. Now many people, again, still get bird stuff. And there's plenty, you can go, as I say, go look at some of these folks who talk about creationism and listen to them talk about dinosaurs, and that's another piece of information for you to think about. But it's not what you're learning. What they're telling is not being accepted to be taught in your child's school class. So your child is as ignorant, maybe more ignorant than you are. So, and then there's, hey, you're not supposed to eat salt. You're not supposed to have fat. My father, when I'm in college or something, I couldn't have been older than 20 years old. No, excuse me. I was in the 9th grade. So I was only about 14, 15 years old. And my father had his first heart attack. Guess what? You can't have any of that fat anymore. Can't have salt. My grandmother, and that was, you can see a long time ago. My grandmother was 104. You can't have salt. You can't have salt at 104? You're going to die tomorrow anyway. My goodness. Enjoy your dadgum salt. So we get all these things in the day. It is, yes, you can still go to the doctors and your doctors will still tell you, oh. What's really worse to me is that we've heard all this stuff over the decades. And so people like you and me, the guys who are producing a TV show, who aren't really doing deep research on anything, they just keep repeating these lies. Salt, you do need salt, y'all. Salt isn't going to kill you. Only if you're a particular kind of special, unique medical condition will salt be a problem for you that you have to deal with it. Okay. Cholesterol, same thing. You need cholesterol. You need fat. Your brain needs it. You need cholesterol for your body to produce its vitamin D or whatever, okay? How do you know this? Well, I know it because I'm looking at all the car shows. All right, I'm looking for the red Prius, and if I don't see a red Prius, I'm noticing that what I was told to be a red Prius on that show ain't a red Prius. Okay, so the information is there if you look for it, but you're not getting it because the news people keep repeating the same old lies, whether it's about evolution or you shouldn't be eating fat or butter's bad. Margarine's terrible. What? All these seed oils are terrible for us. Butter is good for us. And then there's some doctors who tell their patients who are having stomach problems, eat butter for the next couple of days. Butter only. Pure butter. Not margarine. Bad, bad, bad. So, but if you're listening to some guy on a TV show, you're going to hear him say that butter's bad for you, fat's bad for you, salt's bad for you, right? Evolution is true. Oh, some took a million years. They don't know. The people who are talking don't know. They're ignorant. They're not on top of everything. They're listening to a particular narrative. And unfortunately, a lot of our narratives are just there to sell us something, right? So, to sort of get closing here, I realize that when you're a good person, you see good, just like the red Prius. When you're good, you see good. When you drive a red Prius, you see red Priuses. It's hard to see evil in the world when you are a good person. At least you're working at being good. Maybe you don't really, maybe you're not too much in touch with the evil inside of you, okay? Because we've all got it. But you're working at being a good person, you know. And so that's what you're looking for is good. And you see it all around you, how good people are. Your neighbors may be really good neighbors, right? Etc. And you just assume they are. Yeah, and all of a sudden somebody steals something and you're just shocked that, oh my, that person stole my so-and-so. I can't believe they did that. That's ridiculous. What are you doing? Now, but we need to deal with the fact that there's evil in the world. And these evil people, whether they're doing it consciously because they are overtly evil and they're like Dr. Evil on a Austin Powers movie or whatever, right? They know they're evil and they're doing evil things on purpose. They're megalomaniacs doing evil for themselves and they don't care. They don't care what they do to anybody. Those people exist out there somewhere. But most people around you aren't that, right? So most of us are just people who are trying to sell our product or whatever we're doing, right? So the guy who's regurgitating something from the drug companies may not realize that it's not actually true. I watched a doctor talking yesterday, and he pointed out that, hey, look, so a drug says that this drug has caused a 33% reduction in heart failure. And he pointed out, well, the thing is that you could do a test on 1,000 people and 3 people die from heart failure. And then give them the drug and do the test again, and you find that only 2 people die. And so you've had, instead of 3 people dying, only 2 people die. So that is a 33% reduction in death. This is the kind of lies we get told every day by all kind of advertising agencies. Okay? But I think one of the things, and I've been really sort of pushing this a lot, and I apologize if I'm driving you crazy with my post, my regular meme kind of post. We need to realize that not everybody in the world was raised in a Christian nation, in a Christian society. So for Christians, we have certain things that we think are right and wrong, right? We have the 10 Commandments. You're not supposed to be stealing from anybody, not supposed to be killing from anybody, etc., right? You're not supposed to lie. We don't believe in lying. You're not supposed to abuse people. We don't believe in that. Even in the history of our culture, it's Christian nations who have gotten rid of the slavery. It's not other nations. Eyes wide open, y'all. So when people are doing things often, let's say you're picking on somebody, you're beating somebody up, you're abusing them, uh, you're lying to them, you're stealing from them. In a Christian nation, it's likely, unless you're a sociopath or a psychopath, that you're feeling a little guilty about what you're doing. You know you're doing bad. Now, if you're a psychopath, you just know everybody else thinks it bad. You don't think it's bad. You just are doing it because it satisfies you. But if you're not a psychopath, you know you're doing bad, and you normally have some kind of guilt on some level, right? Not all cultures believe what you believe, and they can't mix with you. And you have to open your eyes to the fact that these cultures are not going to live the way amongst you, the way you live, unless you and your culture remains dominant. You may be an atheist, you may be an agnostic, but you live in a Christian culture. And because of that, you enjoy certain privileges that aren't shared around the world. I was looking at something the other day, and it was about how in Thailand there's people who were just kidnapped, people who are made slaves on boats, fishing boats to buy tuna, stuff like it was a video talking about tuna is what it was about. But it pointed out in Thailand you have this problem. These people who are just kidnapped, they're made slaves and put on a, what do they call it back in England? What, Shanghai, the people or whatever, but put on the boat, and they'll be on that boat for years, have no freedom. Now we would, in the United States, we'd go, what? Maybe they say that in Thailand somewhere. Maybe the Christians in Thailand say that. But maybe other people say, well, that's the way it is. This is where people's places in life. Hinduism, historically, if you're that untouchable class, then you're just dirt. That's just the way it is. Let's not worry about it. But we don't think that in Christianity. If you are on the bottom, yeah, there's jerks who will take advantage of you and abuse you. And if they break the law, we put them in jail. But we have to maintain those laws, you see. And if you let other cultures come in and become dominant, they will change the laws. And then the freedoms that you enjoy aren't going to be there. Now, I'm always looking for the truth. And, for myself, I have wondered. I came up about a little bit more than a decade ago, and decided I just want to know what the truth is. That's it. That's why I'm seeing red Priuses all the time, because I'm always looking for the truth. And I can see when the Prius is purple and when it's green, because I'm looking for the red Prius. So I said one day, I don't know whether you exist or not, God. All I want to know is the truth. I don't care if Hinduism is true or Buddhism true. I don't care what's true. I don't care if you don't exist. I just want to know what's true. I've looked at a lot of different faith traditions. You read some of these other books. Look at those traditions. You will be appalled. Look at them. Even part of your own faith tradition from before Christ. You need to look at what people, the cults, the different offshoots of things, to see how there's plenty of folks out there who think you're nothing more than cattle. And they can treat you any way they want to. And you're here to serve them. That's not a Christian point of view. But, and that's all great. I can be an atheist and refuse to accept those particular faiths. But as I've looked for the truth, I can't avoid that Jesus Christ existed and who he is as my Savior. I invite you to go take a look yourself. Look at all those other religions. Don't just sit back and think you know what you're talking about. Look at them all. And then look at your Christian faith And there may be things about it that you think you know that if you look really hard at it, you're going to realize, oh, I've been believing a lie for a long time. Seek truth. I think God will give it to you. Have a good day.